It's the longest undefended border in the world. The line between the USA and Canada spans 5,500 miles, and it has a few strange quirks up its sleeve. One of them is here. A single, tiny Alaskan town wedged between a vast wilderness and a foreign country. The only way in is a float plane, or a road that comes from Canada and very quickly returns to Canada. It is a slice of Alaska cut off from the rest, and the only place you can enter the USA without meeting a single border agent. No passport check, no customs. You can simply walk right in.
Come to the US.
How did this peculiar situation come to be? As you can imagine, the answer is quite a tale, and it takes place against the backdrop of some of the most astonishing natural beauty in North America. Come cross a very strange border with us and explore the story of Stewart, British Columbia, Hyder, Alaska, and the series of events that split a small corner of the world between two mighty nations. There are few important characters in this story. Some are entire countries, some are individual people. But rising above the rest are two forces that set the whole tale in motion. In this part of the world, a massive family of mountain ranges forms a spine along the western edge of North America. Their relief is impressive, especially when you understand that they rise straight from sea level. Their height has a profound impact on every landscape around them, and perhaps no place better illustrates this impact than what lies just over the mountains 40 miles to our west. To see that place, we'll have to take a step back in time. Rewind a year and a half, and Jose and I are on a Nat Geo and Lindblad expedition exploring the coast just to the west of the mountains. Here, there is no clean, linear coastline with mainland on one side and open ocean on the other. Instead, a maze of channels and inlets weave around thousands of islands and rocky peninsulas. No matter where you go within this marine labyrinth, you see the impact of the nearby mountains, because no matter where you go here, you are surrounded by rainforest. The prevailing winds over the North Pacific blow in from the southwest, carrying a staggering amount of moisture with them. When those winds meet the impassable wall of the coast mountains, they unleash all that water onto the coast, resulting in the largest area of temperate rainforest in the world. This is important to the story because if we return to the present, to our current location within the coast mountains, we're about to see the impact of all that moisture just a little farther inland. Today, we are leaving Hyder and crossing the border back into Canada. And when you travel in this direction, you do have a passport check. This is the only two-way crossing on the US-Canada border where Canadian agents have a presence and US agents do not. After crossing, we zip through Stewart, BC. We'll be back to dig much deeper into this town and the role it plays in our story. But right now, the aim is the mountains and the important clues that they hold. This is Highway 37A, often acknowledged as one of the most beautiful stretches of road in Canada. One of the most jaw-dropping sights along this route is a place known as the Wall of Tears. The extraordinary scene of waterfall after waterfall cascading down the entire vertical sweep of the mountains tells us a very important thing. Up above, something is supplying all that water, but we just can't fully see it. Our drone can't fly that high. But just a little farther up the road, there's a natural feature that will make it very clear what lurks up there. Bear Glacier oozes down through a valley of its own making. This sheer amount of ice must be supplied by a larger reservoir, which tells us that high up there in those mountains, an ice field must exist. It's the only explanation for what is feeding Bear Glacier, feeding the Wall of Tears, and if only we could see it, another piece of the story would become crystal clear. Luckily, there is a way to go places the drone can't fly. And that leads us to...
Alrighty, if you guys are ready, I'm ready to go. We can get this show on the road here.
Flight tours are just a fraction of Yellowhead Helicopter's business. The company has bases across British Columbia, supporting resource exploration, utilities operation, emergency services, and a whole lot more. In short, they're busy, but they still make time to take folks out on tours. For that, we are most grateful, because some parts of this story can really only be told from the air. It doesn't take long before we see it. This is what happens when abundant moisture reaches a high mountain range. The water-laden winds of the Pacific Ocean and the towering heights of the coast mountains create the perfect setting for massive ice fields to form. This, the Cambria icefield, covers 276 square miles and feeds no fewer than 14 glaciers. They flow, just like Bear Glacier, through valleys as gravity stretches and pulls the ice downward. In other areas, meltwater from the icefield pours over the mountainsides, creating dramatic scenes like the Wall of Tears. Here we see in vivid detail the great product of the mountains and the sea: ice. And ice, it turns out, had everything to do with the odd situation of the two border towns below. We leave the Cambria icefield behind to go see in person a particular river of ice key in shaping their fate. Welcome to the root of Salmon Glacier. You've probably seen pictures of this iconic river of ice. It's one of the most photographed places in British Columbia. But not from this angle. We are being gifted with a unique perspective, flying overhead and following the direction of its flow downward into the valley below. We see where tributary glaciers join Salmon Glacier, adding to its power and weight. And as luck would have it, time and conditions allow for a very special treat.
Pretty amazing up there.
Yeah.
These glaciers coming in from everywhere.
Every angle,
it's like a river, you know, with the tributaries. Tributary glacier there, another one over there.
That's what's cool. Like I was saying, like you can see that the middle's moving faster than the edges too, right? It's pulling all the edges in. It's pretty neat.
Right.
The hardest part of filming places like this is that you know the footage is just not going to do it justice. It's spectacular. We continue on, following the path of Salmon Glacier downward. And we get a bird's eye view of a road we've been dreaming about for a while. We'll be back later in the episode because taking you on that road has been a goal from the moment we learned about it. The journey down Salmon Glacier continues, and when we reach the glacier's terminus, that's when we are gifted with another unique perspective on the power of ice. Salmon Glacier is no longer here, but it carved this valley. The ice we just left behind once filled this entire valley, grinding the mountains into submission. Every wide U-shaped valley we've seen on this flight was carved by glaciers. And that includes the most prominent natural feature of this region, the pathway that connects Stewart and Hyder to the sea. Its name is Portland Canal. And if there is one main character in this tale, this is it. It is central to the story of these two little towns and the unique border that divides them. This is the head of Portland Canal. It was carved by a massive glacier that Salmon Glacier once flowed into, along with glaciers from the Cambria ice field. From here, the canal courses 100 miles before reaching the open ocean, and so it's no wonder the Nishka called this spot at the head of the canal the safe place. When a glacial valley floods with seawater, we call it a fjord. And because they are glacially carved and therefore deep, fjords make excellent marine highways and a very convenient way to get from the ocean inland, especially when you have a wall of mountains in the way. Those deep waters also make it very easy for large ships to deliver goods and people right to shore. Perhaps that is why, in 1825, Portland Canal found itself in the crosshairs of a discussion that would shape North American geography forever. And here's where the story starts to get interesting, because those discussions didn't take place here, or anywhere in North America for that matter. They took place in St. Petersburg, Russia. The year is 1825. The Russian Empire and Great Britain have been fur trading and claiming territory in North America for a while now, and they just sat down in St. Petersburg to hash out who owns what. The resulting treaty states the border will run from the Arctic Ocean down the 141st meridian, then it will run along the crest of the mountains parallel to the coastline, never reaching more than the equivalent of 35 miles from the ocean, and when it reaches the 56th parallel, it will run through Portland Canal to the sea. It all seems fine and good, but there's one glaring issue. Measuring 35 miles from the coastline would be a breeze in places like, say, California or the coast of Oregon. But here, it's not so straightforward. We've been to this coastline, and as we showed you before, exactly where the ocean begins here is highly up to interpretation. Within this maze of channels and inlets, where does the ocean begin? Does it begin here or here? This issue doesn't carry much consequence in 1825, but it will become quite a problem in the future. Fast forward 42 years, and the U.S. buys Alaska from Russia and inherits that vague, very disputable boundary. As the years progress, more and more prospectors begin poking around this part of the world, and the Americans must smell something in the wind, because in 1896 they send an expedition up Portland Canal to make very clear the U.S. position on one other fuzzy point in the treaty, and that was, what is Portland Canal? At the north end, it's clear, but near the bottom, it gets murky and disputable. Is this the continuation of the channel, or this? Captain David Gillard of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is tasked with building a series of military storehouses that will very clearly say, "This is our side." One of them is still in remarkably good condition. Storehouse number 4 is the oldest masonry building in Alaska, and one of 4 built by Gillard's crew along the canal. It also sits right along the current U.S.-Canada border.
I'm in the U.S.
I'm Canada.
Come to the U.S.
Aww.
Of the 4 storehouses built, number 4 is the only one preserved and cared for. The other 3 are slowly returning to the land, and only one of them is still in the USA. Because something happened not long after Gillard's mission, something that brought the issue of that fuzzy border to a climax. The year is 1898, and a prospector by the name of D.J. Rainey builds a small cabin on a patch of land that will one day become Stewart, British Columbia. He's one of the first to come sniffing around these mountains, part of a larger trend of prospecting across the north. His cabin still stands, and while he didn't strike it big, his counterparts up in the Yukon did, and it changed everything. Enter the Klondike Gold Rush. Suddenly, it matters greatly where the border lies. When millions are suddenly found inland, countries start to care quite a bit about who controls access to those millions and who can get all that wealth out of the interior to a seaport and into the world market. And so the Alaska boundary dispute comes to a fiery head. From 1898 to 1902, talks fail and temperatures rise. Finally, in 1903, a tribunal of 3 Americans, 2 Canadians, and 1 Briton are tasked with settling the matter once and for all. Everyone agrees that the treaty is clear. The border cannot run more than 35 miles from the coast. But no one can agree on where the coast starts. The Americans claim it starts where the mainland touches Pacific waters, which of course would result in U.S. control of key ports and the main access points to the goldfields. The Canadians claim the coast starts at the westernmost boundary of the Channel Islands, giving them control of the ports and a direct all-Canada route from the goldfields to the sea. Also at question is the Portland Canal. Does the line run here or here? Under pressure from then-President Theodore Roosevelt, the one Briton on the tribunal sides with the Americans. Even though the final line runs roughly between each country's claim, the U.S. comes out ahead with control of those coveted ports. Canada is furious, but the deed is done. It's a small consolation, but the Canadian position on Portland Canal is granted, which puts storehouses 1 and 2 now on Canadian soil. And when it comes to the head of the canal, a bit of a compromise is finagled. The border will run directly between the mouths of the 2 rivers, giving both sides level building sites with access to deep water. And the boundary line itself? Well, this is quite interesting. The tribunal decides that the border line shall be exactly 20 feet wide, marked by monuments and clear-cut through forested areas. In 1908, the U.S.-Canada International Boundary Commission is formed to maintain this visible border, a charge that it still holds to this day. The IBC maintains the entire 5,500-mile border with markers, monuments, and that 20-foot wide clear-cut known as the slash. It can be seen even in the most remote sections of the US-Canada border. And so with that, it's settled. The 1903 tribunal seals the deal. To the left is Alaska, to the right is Canada, and now it's just time for the towns to be born. When you visit Hyder and Stewart, the first thing you notice right away is one drastic difference between the two towns. Come along with us and we'll show you. Population about 500, Stewart, British Columbia is a remote but thriving little town. It has a vibrant downtown with shops, restaurants, and bars. In fact, Stewart is home to one of the most celebrated restaurants in BC and an attraction that has to be seen to be believed, though we are saving that treat for a little later in the episode. In short, even in the off-season, Stewart has all the characteristics of a living small town: a grocery store, health center, school, and law enforcement. Hyder has none of those things. Hyder's 40 or so residents depend on BC for electricity, landlines, groceries, gas, and emergency medical care. There are a few restaurants and general stores, but they're closed in the off-season. There's the post office, and one bar, which, by the way, has a great story that we'll also come back to later. Most downtown buildings are boarded up and abandoned, and as you make your way around town, you can't help but get the message that at one point in time, things were quite different. At one time, there was a US border station, and downtown was as bustling year-round as Stewart's is. So what happened? To start exploring that question, we're going to take a little drive. At the beginning of this episode, we mentioned that the only road to Hyder comes from Canada and then quickly returns to Canada. We didn't mention where it goes and why it was built. We also didn't mention that it's the same road we've been dreaming about taking you on for quite a while. Time to air down.
Feels a little better, right?
Oh yeah. It's amazing the difference it makes.
Oh, yeah.
About 10 miles after leaving Hyder, the road crosses back into British Columbia. From there, it will continue for about 20 more miles before it dead ends in the Canadian wilderness. Along the way, it casually transforms into one of the most spectacular roads we've ever driven. The southern terminus of Salmon Glacier calls out ahead, and all around us the mountains rise sharply from the valley floor. These mountains are rich in many minerals, from gold and silver to copper and tungsten. The trick in this landscape is finding those minerals and then getting them out. It turns out man's effort to find and exploit the wealth of this region was key to the contrasting fates of Stewart and Hyder. As many stories go, it starts with a touch of vision, a whole lot of stubbornness, and a healthy dose of luck. In 1901, DJ Rainey, the prospector who built that old cabin in Stewart, finally made some discoveries in these mountains, drawing more miners to the area, including the early settlers who founded 2 little towns on either side of the new border. Both settlements boomed in equal measure when these mountains finally gave up their secrets, and mines on both sides of the border fueled the vibrant growth of both Stewart and Hyder. With the mines later came the road, and it was just pure luck that it happened to facilitate one of nature's most show-stopping vistas. There are certain places in the world that stick with you, and it doesn't matter if you experience them in person or from the comfort of home. They have a call and leave an impression that settles somewhere deep. This is one such place, and so it makes us so happy that you're here, flying along beside us and taking this all in. Because when it comes to the majesty of planet Earth, I'm not sure how it gets much better than this.
Yeah, there's a pull-off right here.
Should I take it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Whoa, look at that. That's amazing. Wow.
Sometimes words utterly fail in capturing the awe and emotion tied to a place. But music can get pretty darn close. Salmon Glacier flows about 6 miles from its accumulation zone in the mountains to the point where it splits in two. The north terminus ends in dramatic fashion, crumbling in slow motion into an iceberg-filled lake of milky blue water. Right now, we don't see any lake because it's drained completely. That's because the north terminus of Salmon Glacier is an ice dam. The ice backs up glacial and snow meltwater until pressure finally reaches a threshold and the weakest point beneath the glacier finally goes. What follows happens suddenly. The lake drains like a bathtub, flowing through channels beneath the ice in a glacial outburst flood. It must be quite a thing to witness. It's hard not to be speechless taking in this view. At its widest point, Salmon Glacier stretches a mile across, and in the late 50s, an interesting study was done on this particular river of ice. It determined average movement of about 1/2 foot per day, and thermal boreholes indicated the ice reaches a depth of roughly 2,400 feet. Or at least it did then. When glaciers lose ice, it's not only from the terminus. They also lose vertical ground, thinning from the top down. That's why we see newly revealed, still unvegetated rock along the base of the mountains. Just about everywhere you look here, ice dominates the landscape, pouring from every high mountain precipice. It's humbling and awe-inspiring. After this viewpoint, the road continues on to the old Grand Duke copper mine, which closed in 1984. Imagine working out here and this being the scenery along your commute. The same Canadian miners who worked out here would also have to drive back through Alaska on their way home, and that led to an interesting tradition at a bar in town. It's the only bar still open today, and that tradition is still alive and thriving. When you enter the Glacier Inn in Hyder, Alaska, the first thing you'll notice is the wallpaper. The story goes that Canadian workers would leave dollar bills tacked to the walls of the Glacier Inn, signed as a sort of deposit. That way, when they drove back from a long day in the mountains, they'd always have money for a drink in Hyder before crossing back over the border and heading home. Obviously, it's grown into quite its own thing today. The owners swear they have never touched a dollar, taking the arrangement quite seriously. It's not their money, it's just being held in trust until the owner comes back and spends their buck on a drink. I wonder if we'll ever come back and spend our dollar. There is another famous tradition here at the Glacier Inn, to get Hyderized. That is, to take a shot of very potent alcohol, 70 to 90 proof preferably. We will be driving across the border again today, so we pass on getting Hyderized, but we still enjoy a lighter drink at the only bar in town, and we come back to wondering why Hyder is nearly a ghost town, but Stewart is still so alive. We now know that the mines fueled the boom of both towns, so what happened next? Back on the Canada side, we take a walk out onto wide tidal flats that stretch towards the head of Portland Canal. Behind us is Stewart, and far in the distance is Hyder. In between, there is a forest of old pilings across the tidal flats, telling us that once upon a time there was a lot of infrastructure out here. In fact, there was even a town out here. Imagine it's 1920 and you are a passenger on a steamship sailing from Vancouver to the head of Portland Canal. When you arrive, you don't see two towns far removed from one another. You see what almost looks like one single town. You see an extensive network of wharfs, raised roads, and even a collection of buildings on stilts tucked up right next to Hyder, but on the Canadian side. It's a service district named Hyder, BC. A 2-mile raised road extends from the two Hyders to Stewart, and altogether the three entities represent one shared binational port complex, quite unique in the world. Now, all that's left of that road and Hyder, BC, are pilings, ghosts of a boomtown era now firmly in the past. The shift from that reality to today was, like most things, not tied to one single factor, but rather a combination of many. In 1948, Hyder, BC burned to the ground and was never rebuilt. Then, in 1951, the only major mine on the U.S. side closed and never reopened. At that time, ocean and air remained both towns' only connection to the outside world, but that too was about to change. When asbestos was discovered 230 miles north in the Cassiar Mountains, Canada was loath to rely forever on those U.S.-controlled seaports to get that product to market. So a highway was built to connect the Cassiar mine to Canada's northernmost ice-free deepwater port. Even though the Cassiar mine is now shut down, and Stewart is not the modern-day terminus of Highway 37, the road connecting the two still bears the nickname the Stewart-Cassiar Highway. Now with a road inland, Stewart could diversify and market itself as a transshipment port, a place where ore, lumber, and bulk commodities can be imported or shipped out to anywhere in the world. With no road to anywhere else in Alaska, that's something Hyder simply could not do. Hyder never recovered its mining boom days, while Stewart's mines continued to produce for years to come. In the late 70s, U.S. border presence packed up and left, leaving their job to others. If we were to take the float plane to Ketchikan, we would be treated as international arrivals and go through customs there. Hyder's isolation became even more acute when the Alaska ferry service ended in the 90s due to lack of demand. And that's where things stand today. While Stewart has road access to the rest of its country and an active world port, Hyder is isolated, not only geographically, but also economically. The community relies heavily on seasonal tourists like us, drawn to the novelty of a strange international border and the promise of friendly people, spectacular scenery, and abundant wildlife. And on all three counts, this area does not disappoint. You've explored the story of this corner of the world with us. Now, we would like to invite you to experience a few surprises it has in store for us. One thing we had hoped so desperately to see, and one thing we never in a million years could have predicted. The first takes place on the Hyder side, just upriver from the Portland Canal. Have you ever heard of a salmon forest? Here in Hyder, we are still in the temperate rainforest, and if there's one cornerstone species that forms the heartbeat of this ecosystem, it's salmon. Every year, 3 species of Pacific salmon return from the sea, swimming up Portland Canal and entering the mouth of the Salmon River. Pacific salmon are extremely fascinating in that they always return to spawn in the exact same stream where they hatched. And when they do, it's a feast for all. We are here right at the end of the season, when most of the fish are spawned out, dead, or slowly dying. But still, the feast goes on. Fish Creek draws thousands of visitors every year because if you come here during the peak of the salmon run, you are almost guaranteed to see bears. At the end of the season, it's more come and go, and we knew that there was a high chance we wouldn't see anything. So it's quite a welcome surprise to be gifted with almost 3 hours with this mama and cub. The rangers tell us this is most likely the last summer this mama and cub will spend together. We notice right away that baby looks a little chubbier than mama, and we very quickly find out why. That interaction in any other scenario would surely result in a brawl. But even in the animal kingdom, the maternal instinct tends towards selflessness, even with a long, hard winter bearing down. At first, we are curious why the cub keeps abandoning her live catches, and then a ranger explains it's most likely because the catch was male. Female salmon hold more nutrition, and so bears will tend to choose a dead female over a live male. It's not just the bears still feasting on the dredges of the salmon run. Countless species rely on the yearly pulse of salmon, and that leads back to the fascinating science of the salmon forest. It's not uncommon for bears, wolves, and eagles to carry and drag salmon onto riverbanks, into the understory, and even deep into the forest. They eat the most nutritious parts, then leave the rest to decompose. Those nutrients feed mosses, shrubs, and ferns, and fertilize the roots of giant cedars, spruce, and hemlock. Vegetation in salmon-bearing watersheds grows faster and taller than watersheds without salmon. Marine nitrogen from the salmon's bodies can even be measured in tree rings, proving that the ocean is literally feeding the forest. It's just another reason that the rainforests in this part of the world are often described as an ecosystem powered by salmon. Our time watching mama and cub has been unforgettable. But one moment in particular really takes the cake. If this scene doesn't speak Pooh Bear after finishing off a very large jar of honey, I don't know what does. The second surprise takes place over in Stewart. We mentioned before that Stewart is home to a culinary gem of British Columbia. It's a Latin-themed fusion restaurant called El Tostador, which means toaster in Spanish. We didn't think much of it until we went inside and saw what adorns the restaurant walls. Vintage toasters and kettles of all shapes, sizes, and designs cover the walls here. Curiosity sufficiently piqued, we asked owner and chef Alejandro if we could get a few shots for this episode. He says of course, but that he can do us one better, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. While we're getting the shots, he calls his business partner, and before we know it, we're on our way to get a private tour of what is soon to be the largest collection of antique toasters in the world. And Frank, the collector and our gracious host, allows us to film the whole thing.
This is probably one of the earliest, if not the earliest. There's always some discussion, but this is a GE toaster from 1908. That's why I said these have you just set the toast on the side and then you hopefully not burn your fingers as you turn them. That's why the other mechanisms developed. That's from 1929, this one. It's a little retro for its day even, you know, because that's when it should have been high deco, but this looks more Victorian. This is a German toaster. This is really well built, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Germans, you know, like
Yeah, that was
do everything very precise.
It's hard to walk through this collection and not be transported to another time. As Frank explains to us, an important part of the collection focuses on pieces from the Art Deco period, the iconic design movement of the Roaring '20s.
In fact, the next room there has a lot of the deco pieces. If you want to look in there. My first piece was actually a coffee pot, so a coffee set. Yeah, that guy there, eh? This.
Oh wow! Oh yeah! I love the deco. It really shines through. You can see it, you know.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite periods.
We learn very quickly that while yes, Frank's collection is famous for the toasters in particular, it actually extends far beyond that. From electric kettles to stoves, and even a couple wonders of which only a few remain in the whole world.
So what you did was you just pinned the two contacts into either line, right? Positive, negative. If you were a little off, you wouldn't get the light on, but yeah.
Wow!
What a concept, eh?
That's amazing.
There's only one other one I know of in a museum in England.
Do you have a light bulb collection?
Yeah. And I have like early Edisons right out of the lab. Some of the test ones from day one.
Wow.
Yeah. And then this is the first automatic oven in a wooden box.
And this is really unique. It's an innovation of the early 1900s, the electric horse. And when the invitation is extended, well, some offers you just don't say no to.
Yeah, show the folks how it's done. All right, are we rolling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in traditional English writing, this is how you mount. Is this actually?
Yeah, it's over.
And then you hold the reins like so.
Are we ready?
And then gotta remember heels down. And this is a posting trot. gosh. Here we go. All
All right.
right, here we go.
Isn't that too bad?
Okay, so. Yeah.
You can try the gout if you want.
No. Wow. That was not a posting trot, but that's okay. And then this
What would you call that?
that would be
Canter or something?
no, that was definitely a trot. I was just not doing the post.
Oh.
There we go.
That was fun.
I bought that in New Zealand last year, and it are built or designed by Kellogg, the cereal guy.
Yeah.
So he was into wellness centers in Michigan, turn of the century.
Huh.
But pretty rare. There's one on the Titanic. The ships of the day had them in their gymnasiums.
Yes, you heard that correctly. The RMS Titanic had 2 of these on board. Never in a million years did we imagine that when we came to Stewart, British Columbia, we would have this experience. We are all smiles when we return to El Tostador for dinner, gushing our thanks to Alejandro before sitting down to enjoy his menu. We've heard a lot about it, and all the hype is absolutely spot on.
Wow, that looks amazing. Thank you so much.
This was one of those unplanned moments that keeps life on the road an endless guessing game of what's next. What will the next surprise be? Well, tomorrow we hit the road for the next stop on our Pan-American journey, and we'll share one little spoiler with you. The trend definitely continues.
Bye-bye, Hyder. Friendliest ghost town.
And with that, dear friends, we really have said goodbye to Alaska for good. We promise there aren't any more hidden pockets of Alaska as we make our way south. Our last sliver of the final frontier now lies behind us. And where to today? We need to get to our next stop quickly because as we are driving out, we see the first snow has arrived on the mountaintops. These peaks were bare when we arrived, and now with their first dusting, they quietly warn winter is coming. The drive back into the interior feels like a first-hand, in-person example of that key role played by the mountains and the sea. As we drive through the coast mountains, we are pummeled by relentless rain, the product of those moist Pacific winds meeting the range. But as soon as we are through and on the other side, the clouds part to a blue sky. It is a remarkable transformation. We are now rejoined with the main drag of the Stewart-Cassiar Highway. As mentioned before, the highway now extends past both Stewart and Cassiar, but the name still sticks. It's a beautiful day to be back in the sunshine and back on the road.
All these dried up bones are running wild on this old night. We're sitting by the traffic lights, don't know. I don't know if I should go. Endless nights in candlelight, open wounds that just don't heal quite.
Now go figure, it's not long before we are turning off the main route again. Because we heard about a way to get to our next stop that is a little more rugged and a little more wild than the highway. And so we leave the pavement behind and make our way into the Nass River Valley. We don't know yet that what awaits us here in the Nass is so far removed from what we expect that halfway through filming, we'll throw out the script entirely. There is a powerful story ahead, one that will teach us a lesson as filmmakers and as human beings. We invite you to walk softly and go through that journey with us next time on Art We There Yet.